Wayne, I just want to remind everybody here, you have a note in your note that says, go check out BI Iran Go on the Bloomberg terminal. It's for a comprehensive overview of everything that our intelligence team is thinking about when it comes to research and the war in Iran. There's everything from oil to the different scenarios for the Strait of Hormuz. You're looking at global air defense and demand for global air defense. Even before going into this conflict, the idea was that investors were bullish on this because the president wanted to do the Golden Dome. He wants to increase the budget for the Department of Defense. How did this conflict change the scenario?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I think one of the biggest pieces is there was already European demand because of Russia and Ukraine. What they were doing, though, is Europe was really looking at it in terms of a little bit incremental spend increase, trying to reach 3.5% to 5% GDP for defense spending. And a large part of that we already anticipated was going to be based off of air defense. What we saw, probably around the range of about 200 to 300 billion of what we anticipated Europe would need to do, about 800 billion total defense. 200, 300 billion of that should have been air defense. Now you add in what Iran was able to provide from ballistic missiles and the drone strikes themselves. And you've seen not only across Europe, but everywhere else as well, saying that they're ill prepared for the amount of air defense capability that is going to be required for interceptors based off of the cheap amount of drones that can actually be used for attacks. So we see a lot of that growth right now. There's really three different categories. You've got your large exquisites, which you would see with Lockheed's PAC-3 interceptors or with RTX's SM-6s fired from sea. But you've got a lot of lower cost munitions platforms as well that are coming out right now that are much more scalable, that you can actually buy in a larger bulk, like BAE L3 Harris's Vampire and Advanced APKWS, Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System. So there's a great opportunity right now where you're seeing demand and orders globally. Middle East obviously is going to be one of those areas as well, across Asia as well.
Hey, one thing I do wonder, Wayne, is are we going to just become a world of domes, where everybody has some kind of dome system? I think about growing up, and President Reagan and Star Wars, right? This whole concept of like shooting stuff down. And I think everybody was like, what?
And it didn't work.
And here we are, though. Is that kind of where we're moving towards?
I think as you become more sophisticated in the air for drone capabilities and missiles, and then you even get into hypersonics, you put all those pieces together. Yeah, it really is going to require these almost cooperative domes. You look at European Sky Shield Initiative across Europe. You look at Golden Dome for the U.S. You look at Iron Dome as one piece of Israel's that they've used along with their Arrow 2 and Arrow 3. And then they get into directed energy with their Iron Beam platform. So really, you're looking at this layered defense dome. But the problem is like you're saying, they are expensive. So you have to start looking at where those partnerships are going to come from. And that's the EU and NATO looking at what kind of solutions they can put together, because not every single country is going to be able to afford this multi-layered defense. So that's where the collaboration comes in.
I think about this and all the conversations we've had with you, just even as this U.S. war in Iran has started. And I just think about the spend on defense. I mean, what are you thinking in terms of military budgets, U.S., the world at large? I mean, I'm looking at a sector, and mind you, this is aerospace and defense together. We're up 9% already this year. We were up more than 40% last year. And I feel like a lot of investment experts come on and say, yeah, this is an area where you want to, allocate some capital to. But how are you seeing it in terms of dollars that are going to be spent going forward, no matter what?
Yeah, I think that you're going to see $150 billion at least in a one-year surge for the demand capacity to include emergency spending, right? We see a $50 billion emergency spending bill going in front of Congress right now to be able to look at replenishing the munitions that we've used, both long-range strike offensive capability as well as interceptors for a defense capability. And then you're looking across other platforms, even in Europe, their research and development has gone up 50% over the last year. Year-on-year growth, specifically for research and development, that up until now they've actually normally relied on. U.S. would be maybe an overstatement, but they've definitely relied on a lot of the R&D that's come out from the United States, and then they help out from the production perspective. Now we're seeing them actually pick up there as well. So I see quite a bit, probably 10-15% gains for most countries. You see that push towards 3.5 to 5% GDP for Europe. I think is going to be one of the largest growth areas, and continued demand for interceptors throughout the Middle East.
Yeah, the interceptor story, has it changed due to the sort of lower tech munitions that adversaries are using right now, namely drones, and the idea that the U.S. doesn't want to send $3 million missiles after $30,000 drones?
Yeah, I think that's where you see that middle market area come in with the APKWS. You see Rheinmetall comes in with Skynex with these different capabilities, as well as RTX and their Coyote Block 2 and 3. There are a lot of different capabilities that are out there to kind of bridge the gap between the two. Now, obviously, the PAC-3 interceptors, SM-6s, they're really designed specifically for ballistic missile defense. And so you see that a lot of people that actually have these countries that have access to those exquisite munition and interceptors, they don't try to use them on drones. So they are looking for additional ways to do it. And then you also have in the futures coming up through quickly, probably in the next 5 years, you're going to start seeing a lot of directed energy platforms, which is high-powered microwave. Like Epirus has a Leonidas system that does it. Lockheed has Helios, which is a high-energy laser platform that's on board Navy vessels. And but you've got to be able to deal with size, weight, and power, because it's got to be strong enough so that you can beat something that is flying at you at speed that may be shielded. And so you've got to have it's really a time calculation as to whether or not you can do that. But the size, weight, and power allows that magazine depth to be a fraction of the cost of shooting any of these other types of munitions.